video for you. Today we've got something really, really cool to take a look at. This is the Steel Will Tasso Mini. Now, I've got to say a huge thank you to Steel Will for sending this out for review. And it's even more significant because of the fact that this is not a knife that I would go out and buy for myself, but I do enjoy getting some smaller knives to give some variety to the channel. And because I know a number of you guys who are watching do enjoy some of the smaller stuff, and I often get requests, Kevin, could you put some smaller stuff on the channel? So whenever I have an opportunity, I try to accommodate that, even though they're usually not knives that I'm going to be keeping long term. I end up getting them more specifically for the channel and for you guys as viewers. So that's where this knife kind of fits. And I have to say though, this knife has done some really, really cool stuff, and I enjoy this knife a lot. And for me to say that about a small knife, normally the first thing out of my mouth is, it doesn't feel good in hand, and I don't feel like I have enough real estate for my hand to use this knife comfortably, and therefore, I just usually skip the smaller stuff. But this has fantastic ergonomics. And just, yeah, there's a lot of things to really, really like about this knife. So let me, before I, get off on all these wild tangents, obviously you know how I feel about the knife. Let me give you some of the reasons why. So size and weight on this guy is small, 7¼ inches overall, 3 1/8 on the blade, 4 3/16 is the handle size. So that's sort of the length you're going to be dealing with in pocket. It's a little thicker, okay? So it's a full 1/2 inch thick, which is, a little more than, maybe you'd expect for a knife of this size. 3 3/16 grip area. Wow, that would have been really bad. And in addition to that 3 inches, which does just barely accommodate all 4 fingers, you do have this nice spot to choke up, which definitely adds some extra versatility to this knife. And the choked up position, honestly, is how I have mostly used this knife, just because I do feel a little bit cramped and crowded back here. Okay, so size and weight overall, yes, it's smaller than I usually like. I know some of you really, really enjoy a knife of this size. For me, it's definitely too small. Mostly, yeah, anyway, blade, handle, the whole thing, just not what I'm into. But I know a lot of you guys like the 3-inch blades, and if you like 3-inch blades, like if you're a mini Griptilian fan, you would love this. I feel like this is better in so many ways than the mini Griptilian. It's a real step up, and yet it doesn't cost all that much more, especially considering the steel you're getting here. If you compared this to the 20CV mini grip, you would be, I think the mini grip would actually cost more. So I've got to say, very, very nice if you're a small blade guy. Let's go ahead and thinking of the blade, let's start taking a look at this guy. So we have a 3-inch clip point blade, bit of a swedge up here, satin finish, which I do really, really like. Nice and thin behind the edge. We've got just under a hair under 3 inches of cutting edge. Not crazy thick blade stock, really nicely crowned spine here. And so this blade overall is really a really nice little clip point blade. Great performance out of this blade, great performance out of this steel. And so I've got to say, I am very, very impressed, right? I like this blade shape. I like the grind. There's really nothing that I can pick on about this blade that I would want to see done differently. I really just like everything about it. I guess maybe the only very minor complaint is there's a fair bit of writing on this blade. It would have been nice to see that minimalized just a little, but honestly, that's not a huge concern for me, and I don't really pay that much attention to it. And when you're getting down to that level of nitpicking, that tells you just how good this knife actually really is. So that's the blade. I'm really, really happy with this blade. I found it performed extremely well, and you have a great steel, a great blade shape. What's not to like? The next thing we want to talk about, and this is where we'll spend maybe a little more time, is on this lock. So come on, focus. I want you guys to see how this engages and disengages from the back. So you can see this little piece here is dropping into the tang of the blade. This piece, which is spring loaded, is kind of propelling it down. And so this ant lock is sort of a variation of a back lock. Just essentially, it's broken right here. And instead of pushing on the other end of a lever down here, you're pushing up on the lock to kind of release it. And the way they've done it, where as it locks into place here, is very secure. but also very enjoyable. Like this knife, it's easy to actuate. It's very, very smooth, which is, by the way, and it is, by the way, on washers. Need to point that out. So, do I like this new ant lock? Yes, I think Steel Will has got a real win on their hands with the ant lock. I can only assume, and I did go and find a few videos to watch and kind of get a sense for it. Everyone who's tried it on the larger model of this knife also says about the same thing that I do. So everyone seems to be quite happy with the functioning of this lock. There's no blade play up and down or side to side, so very secure lock. Very, very easy to engage and disengage. Overall, it's just a lot of fun, very enjoyable, very functional. And so I think the ant lock for Steel Will is a big win. It's very comfortable. It's everything you want in a good knife lock. So super, super happy with that. And implemented here, this knife is very smooth. It flicks out really well. The placement of the thumb studs are really, really nice. They're accessible. They're easy to get a hold of. They're fast. All the things that you look for, and the lock is the same way. So really, really nice. And if I do release it, you see there, I can get it to be a pretty free dropping knife. Very, very smooth, very, very fast. Overall, totally, totally happy with the action on this knife. And it has to be said that, again, this is not a bearing pivot knife. This is a knife that's on washers. And guess what? To me, that's a huge win. This proves once again that you can get a knife that has good action on washers, and you're going to be getting a knife that's a little more versatile, that you don't have to baby quite as much. You don't have to be caring about where and when and how you're carrying and using your knife. You can just kind of go. Really, really impressed with the lock and the action on this knife. And the next thing I'm really, really impressed with is the handle. So we've got this beautiful G10. It has been 3D contoured. We've got a nice bright blue G10 backspacer. Fairly unobtrusive lanyard clip there, or lanyard post there. Not something that I care about, but it's there if you want it. The clip is single position, as you can see, and not uncomfortable. So, one thing that you could see being a problem, a knife of this size, the clip is the same size as the full size, and so it ends up like halfway down the handle. Sometimes that can cause some ergonomic issues, but it doesn't in this particular knife. So I'm very, very happy with that as well. And the handle overall is just really well put together. And most importantly for me, really, really comfortable. The ergonomics on this are a huge win. So I definitely like to choke up on this knife. And I love the fact that it's got this crown spine that allows me to have some sort of a landing strip there for my thumb. Yeah, do I think that's, and by the way, one other point here about construction is you can see there's no steel liners, it's just the G10. And again, I really, really like that. So overall, everything that they've done here, I'm really, really impressed with. I like the construction, I like the design, I like the blade shape, I like the ergonomics, I like the lock, I like the blade, right? There's nothing here that I can really pick on. And I have to say, if this was the full size Tasso, if it's as good as this, I would be raving about how fantastic it was. I really would, because this has really, really impressed me. So I definitely am a big, big fan of this knife, even though it's a little smaller than what I normally want to carry. Now, because it's a little smaller than I usually carry, I don't have a whole lot of comparisons here, but to give you an idea, there is a Paramilitary 2, which everyone is pretty familiar with. If you're not aware of that knife, then here is the Rat Model 1. Again, something that many, many people will be familiar with. So you can see there, kind of how it compares in terms of blade shape, how it compares in terms of handle size. I do have a couple of knives that were closer in size. One's visiting just because my friend Bradley was visiting, dropped this off and kind of left it here, so it's going to be on camera now. This is closer in size. It's the Real Steel Griffin. It's not the same. This is a little closer to the size of knife that I enjoy. But I thought I'd throw it in since it was kind of on the smaller side. And the other knife I've got for you, this is a small knife, is the QSP Puffin. Now, I've got to say, I like both of these designs equally. This is a really, really attractive design, fairly small knife. The only complaint here is one about action, and that is I need to two-hand this, or I need to kind of do a two-finger movement on this knife to get it open. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the review, but since it's here and they're similar in size, I thought I'd bring it in. Okay, there are your comparisons. That should give you a good idea of size and offer really only one comparable knife in terms of size. And I don't know what the cost is. I suspect the Puffin would cost more than this, just given the materials and all of that stuff. So what do I think about this knife overall? Well, if you have been paying attention up to this point, there's no secret here. I'm really, really impressed by this knife. It's comfortable in hand. It cuts really well. The materials are great. I love the 3D machined G10. The pocket clip works really well going in and out of pocket. Being a smaller knife, I'm not really even going to comment on how comfortable it is to carry because, a knife of this size, of course, it's comfortable to carry. So yeah, this does all the things that I want a knife to do, and it does them all really, really well. This is an easy, easy, easy recommend, especially if you like the smaller knives. Now, because I can't really speak that much to the larger one, I'm going to have to try and get my hands on one and really give it some time to figure out because I do want to get. Listen, I love this and it's this size. So imagine how much I would love the full size, right? So I do need to get my hands on one and I will try to do a follow-up video with the larger knife when the larger knife is in my possession. Okay, thanks a lot for watching. I'd love to hear your comments down below. If you've got one of these, what you think of it. If you've got the larger one, am I on point in saying that I'm going to love it just as much as this one, or is there some glaring issue with the larger one that I'm just not anticipating? Let me know down in the comments. Thanks for watching. Head on over to White Mountain Knives and use my discount code SHARPSTUFF to pick up this, or I don't know if they have any of these in stock, but they always have a good number of steel wheel knives in stock over there. Justin tends to pay close attention to what Steel Will's offering and make sure he's got a few around. And I've got to say, I've had a few steel wheel knives here recently, and I have just been repeatedly impressed. I don't know if they've made some changes there or, what exactly is going on. Maybe they've got some different designers, whatever the case may be. Steel Wheel, you guys seem to be killing it right now. Keep up the good work. And I will talk to all of you soon. Don't forget to like and subscribe if I didn't say that already. Well, make sure I say it now. Thanks a lot. See you later.